Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone, brothers and sisters. Today's youth reminder is by Sister Amina Al-Moghrabi, who is a lawyer by profession working in the property law sector. She's also a volunteer for different Islamic organizations, including MAB Youth. Today, inshallah, she will be talking about the ideal supplication. Jazakallah khair, Amina, over to you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope you, my sister Isma, and everyone else who's joining us today is well and safe, inshallah. So we're now, alhamdulillah, within the final 10 days of Ramadan, and today will fall on the night of the 27th, which is a odd night. SubhanAllah, so it's a wonderful opportunity for us to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ensure that everything that we ask for that is good for us is accepted. So within the last 10 days, dua is one of the most important acts of worship that we can, inshallah, and cooperate within. So that, inshallah, whilst the opportunity is still there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's maghfirah and mercy is bestowed upon us. So we know that the night of the 27th has great significance. Obviously, all the odd nights are equally of importance, and any of them could be the Laylatul Qadr. But based on a hadith of the Prophet, the highest candidate for the Laylatul Qadr is the 27th. So I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if today is the night of the 27th, that He enables us all to be able to worship Him in the best of manners, inshallah. So to begin with, I wanted to cover the importance of understanding the status of dua as an act of worship. And then what we'll do is we'll follow with some discussion on the methodology and the etiquette that we need to have when we're making dua to Allah. So the first and most fundamental thing that we need to appreciate is that the act of dua is one of the greatest actions of ibadah or worship. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Ghafir that the act of making dua is equivalent to the making or the act of ibadah as a whole. وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمْ أُدْعُنِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ عَنْ عِبَادَتِي سَيَدْخُلُونَ جَهَنَّمَ دَاخِرِينَ. And your Lord says, call upon me, I will respond to you. Indeed, those who are arrogant to worship me will enter hell. So what he's saying, or his subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here, is that ibadah, so he says that those who call upon me through dua are conducting an act of worship, and those who are arrogant towards worshipping me will enter hell. So the act of dua is the equivalent to the entirety of ibadah. The Prophet ﷺ says there is nothing more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than the act of dua. He tells us that Allah loves the servant that always makes dua to Him. So my dear brothers and sisters, the sign of a Muslim is that he makes dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fi sarra'i and dharra, so at times of hardship and at times of ease. And the Prophet says that whoever wishes that Allah answers his dua at the time of need, let him increase his dua at the times of ease. So what counts is when you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you don't need anything. But what we don't realize from our sort of human perception is that, that ni'mah that we have at the moment in time, all the good that we have can in a flinch of an eye disappear. It can all be taken. So it's so important to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to maintain that ni'mah. So when you don't have any difficulties in life, you still have to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so in the Quran there's a beautiful dua which says قال ربي أوزعني أن أشكر نعمتك التي أنعمت علي وعلى والدي وأن أعمل صالحا ترضاه. My Lord, enable me to be grateful for the favors which you have bestowed upon me and upon my parents, and to work righteous of which you will approve, and make righteous for me my offspring. So the times that we have the things that we want, we still raise our hands to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and thank Him, and we ask that He maintains that ni'mah on us. And at the times of hardship, we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala eases things for us and gives us the ability to cope with these difficult situations as well. So dua can be made for every single need, whether it's big, small, trivial or major. A Muslim always raises his hands to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything. And it's part of having tawakkul ala Allah, knowing that the response or the solution lies with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not with mankind. So one of the fruits of the act of ibadah through dua is that it increases our iman, because through dua we connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you will realize that the more you raise your hands and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more comfortable you feel talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so what happens is that it builds that connection between you and Allah, and it increases your level of iman, inshallah. So what is it that makes dua of such significance? Why is it so important as an act of ibadah? And this is really important, so take note of this. Nothing demonstrates the relationship between the creator, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the created, ourselves, like dua. So there's no better demonstration of the relationship between a abd, so a servant, and his Lord than the concept of dua. So when we're making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're demonstrating who we are and who Allah is. So you're showing that you have no power or qudra, so the ability or the power, except through and with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you make dua for the simple, trivial things, you're demonstrating to Allah that, oh Allah, I recognize that until and unless you give me what I need, I can never get what I want. So an example of this, we could have an exam that's coming up. We've done all we can. We've prepared for it. We've revised everything. We think, right, I'm going to go in and I'm going to ace this exam. But the reality is, without having that dua and that tawakkul ala Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing is guaranteed. You have no clue what question can throw you off. So it's that asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make things easy for you. And Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha once said that if your shoelace rips, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fix it for you. What she's trying to teach us here is that no matter how simple this thing might be or task might be, we need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help in it, and we ask, and Allah gives. And there's the Sahaba asked the Prophet once, they said to him, the Prophet ﷺ told the Sahaba to make dua for everything. So they said, إِذَنْ نَسْتَكْثِرْ, so we're going to make too much. So he said to them, well, Allahu Akthar, Allah is even more. So Allah is even more giving. And no matter how much we ask, we should never feel guilty that we're asking for too much. So I wanted to sort of move on and talk about the etiquettes for making dua. So we'll talk about some of them, or the main ones at least, because we won't be able to cover all of them. So the first and the most fundamental factor for making an accepted dua is the sincerity of the heart. So you can make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any language. So if you can't speak Arabic, that's not a bar, it doesn't stop you from making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because He is the one who taught us these languages that we speak. Allah, He wants to hear your heart and not just your tongue. Of course, the dua of the beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the dua of the Anbiya, the ones that we extract from the Quran, are of an elevated status. So if we use them, that's even better. But that should never discourage us from making dua. And there's something that I sort of learned, just as I grew and as I started to understand more concepts myself. What I realized is a lot of the time we associate the act of dua with, using eloquent Arabic phrases and words, the ones that we hear in Mecca, in Medina, the ones that we hear our elders use. And of course, they are good, these ones, but if you don't understand them, or if they don't touch your heart, if they don't come from your heart, then it's not as sincere. And so the idea here is that what you need to do is you need to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in however way you want. Okay, so you ask Him, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will understand, because He knows what's in our hearts. So always remember, this is the number one factor when you're making a dua, and that's the sincerity of your heart. So it needs to come from your heart in order for it to, inshallah, be accepted. So what are the sort of manners and the etiquettes for making dua? So there is a way that the Prophet ﷺ used to make dua, and it's almost like a template that he taught us to use when we make dua to Allah. So the idea is that this template and the techniques are designed to elevate our dua. And though, of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hears everything, He knows everything that's in our hearts, there is a manner in which we're taught by our beloved teacher to call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we might find ourselves when we're making dua, we say, we jump straight in and we say, Ya Allah, give me this, or oh Allah, please give me X, Y, or Z. So we just jump straight in and ask for things. And that's not the best way of making a sincere and accepted dua. And it's certainly obviously not the way that the Prophet ﷺ and the other prophets in general made dua to Allah. So what we need to do is we need to sort of learn for our own benefit the right way of making dua, so that our du'as are more readily accepted and responded to by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I wanted to start this sort of segment of it with an interesting concept that Ibn al-Qayyim said, and that is that dua is the weapon of the believer. So how he explained it is really nice. So he says that just like in this world, the weapon is only as good as the person that's using it, the same way dua is only as good as the person who's making it. And he gives the example of someone who has, the state-of-the-art bow and arrow, but he doesn't know how to use it. So he fumbles when he uses it. He doesn't know in which direction to point it. He doesn't know how to pull the string, and he doesn't know when to let go of it. So although, of course, he's got this tremendous weapon, he's not able to use it to his advantage. So he said that when the weapon is good and the hand that's holding it is good and strong, only then is the person able to use it. And in the same way, subhanAllah, we learn how to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That when we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly, we can use that as a weapon in our fight against the shaitan and our struggle to earn our place in Jannah, inshallah. So I just wanted to share this as a beautiful way of seeing how powerful dua is. So with that, let's just have a look at some of the etiquettes or the methods for making an accepted dua. So there are times of acceptance for the dua, and we've got recommended times, so just before the Fajr time. And we've got, the times of, for example, Laylatul Qadr, so the 10 nights or the final 10 nights of Ramadan. So another concept that I wanted to sort of touch on is the belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept your dua. So once you have that sincerity of the heart, you also need to have the belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept your dua. And you need to have that belief without a single element of doubt. And so the Prophet ﷺ says that every dua that a Muslim makes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him something in return. So even if you don't feel like your dua is being answered, you will get something out of it. There's always a fruit that comes out of dua. It never just goes into, it dissolves into thin air. And so what we sort of need to remember is that who we're dealing with, we're not dealing with a human who might withhold something from us, or he might give us something just in return for us doing something. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we're dealing with, the creator of those heavens and the earths, the Rabbus Samawat, the one who holds the keys to the treasures of the heaven and the earth. So what we might think is, well, what happens when I make my dua? What next? I haven't seen anything. Why have I not seen anything come or nothing that I can see fruitful through my dua? And with that, you need to sort of understand there are three things that happen to our dua. The first one is the one that we all sort of desire because we're sort of, in the short-sighted way. We think, I make my dua, I want Allah to answer it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may answer it, and He might give you what you asked for immediately. The second thing that could happen is that Allah might postpone it for a better time, or He might remove a bala or a calamity that was on its way to you, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what is best for us. You know, a good example of this would be a mother making dua for her son who is sick. You know, she's asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cure her sick child from this illness. When she obviously makes the dua for his shifa, the bala or the calamity that was on its way, which she didn't know of, which could have been the death of her son, has been sort of removed as a result of that dua. So from where she stands, she may think that her dua has not been accepted because she didn't, or she doesn't see that her son is cured from this sickness. So that's what she sees. But the reality is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removed a calamity that was on its way, something even greater, something that if it was revealed to her, had she known that her son was going to die as a result of this illness, I'm sure she would praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his sickness. And subhanAllah, this is having tawakkul ala Allah and knowing that whatever Allah writes for you is what is good for you. The final thing that could possibly happen with your dua, so if it's not answered, if there is no like sort of calamity that it sort of collides with, is that the dua may be turned into a mountain of hasanat or good deeds on the day of judgment. So on the day of judgment, a man will come and he'll find a random mountain of hasanat or good deeds on his scale. He'll ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where did all of this come from? Allah will respond by saying, you once made a dua to me and I did not answer. However, I turned your dua to these good deeds. The man will then say, I wish you didn't answer any of my dua. So subhanAllah, it will come at a time we need it most, more than whatever it is that we asked for. So these are sort of the three things that we need to take into consideration when we're making a dua or after a dua, you know, when we start to have that doubt, because it's natural, you know, the shaitan will come and sort of whisper to us and say, you know, you're asking Allah, He's not giving you. Always remind yourself that I might have not have received what I asked for immediately, but it may be that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removed a calamity, or it may be that I'll get something when I need it most, and that's on the day of judgment. So in terms of like the method of making a dua, so, you know, having that sincerity of the heart is the most fundamental factor. The second thing is, you know, having the yaqeen or the firm belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept it. These are the sort of spiritual or the heart elements of making a dua. There's also other things that we take into consideration, including the tongue, so what the tongue says when you're making dua, and the timing as well. So we sort of briefly touched on the timing, and that is, you know, selecting certain times of the day where dua is more likely to be accepted. You know, for example, just before Fajr, you know, during the last 10 days of Ramadan, you've got this golden opportunity of Laylatul Qadr when the angels, including the angel Jibreel alayhi salam. So we know angel Jibreel's job was to only come down to the earth to the prophets, but he also comes down on Laylatul Qadr, so he comes down once every year. And so subhanAllah, he's a guest that we should honor through our worship during the night, inshallah. When you begin to make dua, it is recommended that you start by sending a salutation or salah ala nabi. So you begin by saying the very basic, which is Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. You can start like that, or any way of sending salutations or salam on the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. And then after that, you know, move on to praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through using his Asma al-Husna, the 99 names that we know. So try and find some of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names and connect them to what you're asking for. For example, you might say, you know, Ya Ghafoor Ighfir li dhunubi. You know, you are the ever forgiving. Oh Allah, you are the ever forgiving, so forgive me or forgive all my sins. Or you might say, you know, Ya Razzaq Arzuqni. You know, you are the provider, so provide me. And so this is sort of a really like nice way of making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by calling on his names and asking him to give you what he is generously giving to us. And you know, another thing that you need to you know, do with your dua is persist. You know, sometimes we might say, I asked Allah for something, but I haven't got it. Well, have you asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a number of times? Have you persisted in your dua? Have you asked him not once, not twice? You might have asked for the same thing for months and years, and only in the right time it will come. And so subhanAllah, it's so important to lih and ask Allah and ask him again for the same thing. And inshallah, if it's good for you, Allah will write that thing for you and decree it. And remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ. And if my servant asks you about me, tell him that I am near. So subhanAllah, Allah is nearer than what you think. He is the one that will always be by your side, and He's the one with whom the keys to our issues, our problems, the keys to the heavens and the earth belong. So I wanted to leave you with obviously some practical tips. So, you know, it's all good talking about the importance of the sincerity of the heart and how to conduct our du'as. And so what I wanted to do is, if you can, or if you want to, you can either screenshot this slide and just pick up some of the practical tips that you can apply. So what you might want to do is write down a list of du'as and keep asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for them daily. So you can focus and you can persist. Because if you don't really plan, you might sort of ask for one thing on one day and then ask for another thing on the other day, which is of course it's not an issue, but to sort of implement that persistence in your dua, it might be worth listing specific things that you really want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless you with, and ask for them a number of times. Take a few of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names and understand what they mean and practice them, or incorporate them in your dua and practice them as well. Set yourself a dedicated time of your daily schedule to make dua, so take advantage of the special times. You might want to set your alarm 10 minutes before Fajr, so you can pray 2 rak'ahs of qiyam, and after it, make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you whatever it is that you want. Because you remember that the thuluth al-akhir min al-layl, so the last third of the night, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes down to the first sky and He says, is there anyone who is asking or calling upon me for me so I can answer him? So these are some practical tips that you can sort of take from this. And so the final thing that I wanted to leave is the dua, or the queen of all du'as of Laylatul Qadr. So Aisha radiallahu anha says, or she went to the Prophet ﷺ and she said, O Messenger of Allah, if I'm worshipping on the night, so the night of Laylatul Qadr, what should I say? The Prophet ﷺ said to her to say, Allahumma innaka afuun kareemun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. Oh Allah, you are the pardoner, the generous, and you love to pardon, so pardon us. And subhanallah, afu, the word afu in Arabic is more than just pardon. It is, when you ask for afu, you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you the health, to give you the afiyah in your deen, the afiyah in your dunya, and the afiyah on your akhirah, inshallah. And just to conclude, I wanted to make, I make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes us all amongst those who make dua to Him during the day and the night. And may Allah give us all the sincerity of the heart when we make dua to Him, and may Allah accept our du'as in these blessed nights.
Ameen, Allahumma ameen. Thank you very much, Sister Amina, for this beautiful reminder. And the time is just perfect, given that we are about to finish the month of Ramadan, and we should all be asking Allah to accept our ibadah, accept our fasting, accept our deeds, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan for this. I would like to remind you all about the lectures we have for today. At 6 o'clock, we have Family Affairs. It will be with Brother Ziyad and Ahmed Isa. And then at 7:30, we have Feed Your Soul, followed by Quran recitation. I would like to tell you all about the online Eid party that will happen on the second day of Eid, inshallah. We have a lot of surprises. So do tune in and follow the links that we are sending around. If you have any questions or queries or comments, please do email us. That's it from me. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.